high school African American Studies program is less history, more Marxism and voodoo. They're definitely pushing Marxism on our kids. That's what this is about. And I can't believe an AP Studies program is pushing this ridiculous non-history, so-called history. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here, and there's also a link to my Instagram and my shop where you can purchase my I will not comply T-shirts. So check that out as well. All right, let's talk about this news. This year, a new AP high school program has launched. Uh, Advanced Placement African American Studies, or APAS. The pilot program was introduced at 60 high schools across the country with plans to add many more schools next year. The curriculum will be an interdisciplinary look at the history of civil rights in the U.S., as well as African American music and other topics. NPR benignly reported earlier this year. Except the number of reports, including the December 2nd Washington Post article featured on the front page of the print edition, indicates AP African American Studies is far from harmless, promoting, among other things, voodoo. That's right, they literally promote voodoo. But first, let's get with the name, calling it African American Studies. I hate the term African American. If y'all don't know, the term African American was something made up in the 80s. It wasn't like it wasn't a consensus on the term African American. It was something that Jesse Jackson came up with and lobby Congress to start calling black people. I never liked the term. I'd rather be called black or some people believe that we are the indigenous people of America, so maybe indigenous or what have you. But I really don't like the term African American. I've never been to Africa. I don't even believe my descendants really come from Africa, so I'd rather just be called black. But I digress on that, because I can get into some stuff. Dane Calloway does some great research when it comes to that. So if y'all interested in that stuff, I suggest y'all look up Dane Calloway on YouTube. He does some great work. But though the College Board, which manages the AP program, has been oddly secretive about the content of APAS, National Review reporter Stanley Kurtz acquired a copy of the course's curriculum framework. His report on the framework demonstrates the aggressive anti-American Marxist content of the course. And of course, leftists are always anti-American. I don't understand, how can you be anti-American? America is the greatest country in the world. People flee their countries and flock to our country for a better life. So how can you be anti-American when the majority of the world want to live in America? I never understand that. But APAS features readings from scholar Robin D.G. Kelly, who argues that authentic black studies requires revolutionary study and activism outside of academics. Kelly posits that norms of objectivity must be rejected in favor of Marx's call for, quote, a ruthless criticism of everything existing and a subsequent struggle against power structures. But but they don't tell you the leftist is the power structure. Look at every single so-called power structure. Look at government. Who runs that? The leftist. Look at big tech, another power structure. Who runs that? Leftist. Look at the banking industry. Who runs that? The leftist. Look at all these big corporations with the ESG scores and all this other woke stuff. Who runs those big corporations? The majority of them. Leftists. So you want to criticize the power structure, but you would never criticize the real power structures, which is the leftist institutions. But I digress again. Though the topics in the curriculum sound neutral, Kurtz observed that, quote, the reading almost uniformly consists of neo-Marxist agitation, pleas for a socialist transformation of America. That includes the anti-American France Fanon who called the United States, quote, a monster in which the taints, the sickness, and inhumanity of Europe have grown to appalling dimensions. I mean, again, what other country would you rather live in? Where do you have more freedoms than any other country? That is the United States. So how can you be anti-American, talk about all this other stuff, but when you can't name one country when it comes to freedoms are better than us? Critical race theory, or CRT, advocates at Eduardo Bonella Silva and Kimberly Crenshaw and Patricia Hill Collins are also on the reading list. We also know that APAS curriculum, quote, content writing team is staffed by leftist radical ideologues such as Joshua M. Myers of Howard University, who believes that, quote, black radical tradition should be synonymous with black studies. Moreover, a significantly large portion of APAS curriculum is devoted to the history of black studies, of Vice, the history of black people. Imagine, by comparison, an AP European history course that focused on the history of European historical scholarship. Quote, this seems oddly self-referential until you realize it's a strategy for teaching about radicalism without quite seeming to do so, writes Kurtz. So we know, so they basically trying to hide the radicalism in this. They're trying to indoctrinate our kids, basically, without letting people know that they're indoctrinating our kids. A lot of theory and fluff, but there's not many facts at all. I'm about facts. I'm about facts, and then maybe you come up with your own opinions from the facts, but that's not what they're doing here. They're telling these kids what to think and leaving out the facts. Quote, I don't teach theory, I teach facts. Patrice Frazier, a Baltimore-based APAS teacher, told the Washington Post, the purpose is not to indoctrinate them or guide them in some kind of political philosophy. The story is so much more complex than simply white people versus black people. Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham, a professor of African American Studies at Howard University, told the Post. Yet, plenty of reporting on the APAS curriculum indicates that's hardly the case. APAS content, according to a Time article, include, quote, the significance of the Marvel Black Panther movie. Yeah, that's right. They're talking about the Black Panther movie in an AP class. And an opportunity to study, quote, the reparations movement and Black Lives Matter activism. Oh, man. They wouldn't want me to teach that class because I'll tell them what Black Lives Matter really about and who's really behind Black Lives Matter. They wouldn't want me to teach that class. Intersectionality is reportedly, quote, a key tenet of class, according to the Smithsonian Magazine. Quote, students will learn how to advocate for black, indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, in the outside of post-secondary environment, notes a report from best colleges. So let me get this straight. This is supposed to be a class on so-called African Americans, right? But then they're going to talk about other people of color. See, this is the stuff Marxists do. Forgive me if APAS sounds like a course aimed at further endangering woke activism among American high schoolers. Indeed, the same best colleges report on APAS adds, quote, by studying America's past and present mistakes, society can create a future that is free of societal disparity, bias, and discrimination. A future free of social disparity? Isn't that a key tenet of Marxism? It's also entirely blinkered, given the social and economic hierarchies, though often unjust, are a natural human phenomenon. Even the most communist nations cannot extinguish such hierarchies. In fact, they inevitably aggravate them through corruption and policies that vitiate human freedom. That's why socialism never works. Moreover, as the Washington Post report on Frazier's APAS lesson shows, the course invests a lot of energy trying to persuade students that voodoo is not strange or evil, but a legitimate religion suppressed by white supremacists. After a pro voodoo video, students regurgitate details, including, quote, white people felt like it was empowering to black people. Another student declared, quotes, it made me think that not everything has to be bad. There could be an alternate way. There could be alternate ways of looking at things. Voodoo readers should remember involve inherents becoming possessed by spirits, engaging in divination, causing harm to other people, and even ritualistic cannibalism. All in the Bible explicitly talk about how evil those things are. So again, I'm not. I can get into a tangent on that, so I'm gonna leave that one alone for now. But if APAS were actually a serious, neutral study of the black experience in America, one would think there would be readings from thinkers across the political and ideological spectrum rather than entire lessons about voodoo. Like it would be Thomas Sowell on there. It would be the Ben Carsons on there. There's no conservative thought when it comes to this at all. Yet there is no indication that critics of CRT or black radicalism, such as John McWhorter, Glenn Laurie, Robert Woodson, or Shelby Steele, are included in APAS curriculum. And I got to say, Glenn Laurie is one of my favorites as well. Quote, those courses such as APAS will siphon off students from American history and other more conventional subject areas, bringing campus style balkanization and politicalization to K through 12, argues Kurtz. That unfortunately seems the likely result of an APAS coming to a school district near you. And if your high schooler comes home expressing interest in learning more about how they too might participate in voodoo rituals, don't say I didn't warn you. So watch what your kids are learning. Stay up on that stuff, and try to introduce them to facts so they're not confused about this idiocracy that they're pushing in our schools. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out themarkrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.